All right. So we received several questions during our webinar. Is your team telling you everything you need to know? So we're going to answer those questions today or right now for you, since we didn't have time to answer those in the live webinar. So Mark, here's the first question. Is this a good time or a bad time to start asking questions to our managers and team?
Yeah, it's a great question because a lot of people are concerned asking the questions right now with everything going on can really actually annoy people. But the problem is that you're only seeing things now, that it's really important to do it in the moment. And I think from a technology point of view, from a communication point of view, from a leadership point of view, when you're living through it, people actually asking you and saying, hey, listen, this is what I'm seeing. This is what's going on. This is what I'm experiencing. Hey, I think I might have a solution. It's better to deal with it now, work on it through it now, and have that discussion now than waiting too much further and people forget because there's other things going on. What are you seeing, Don?
Yeah, it's a great question because it's a question of timing. And I would have, if this question had been posed several weeks ago, I'd say maybe not. There was that big rush to get everybody working from home. IT teams were overloaded. Our team was just inundated. Now, what I'm seeing internally, as well with some clients, is there is a little bit of a gap, and I think it's a perfect time now to start asking those questions, especially around technology, since that's what we deal with every day. There's an opportunity to get ahead of some of the new issues that have come up since this shift to work from home, and also start to address those lagging or nagging technology issues that have been there for quite some time that may be impeding your business. So I think it's a perfect time to start asking questions.
It's great. That's great. And, Don, there's another question that came in, and it's really more about family and about what's going on. It says, are children receiving adequate instruction? Is a child being present, rested, and fed? And is they're emotionally available for learning? So the way I'm interpreting this question is, when you have to homeschool your kids and everything else is going on and there's work going on and there's a different environment, you have kids that are a little younger and still at home. How do you work through this, and what do you suggest for others?
Yeah, and I think this question came from from somebody that used to be in early childhood education or special education around kids, and so this was sort of geared toward how they viewed their classroom, and I think that can be that same perspective can go into how you view your team, but also again, what's happening with your team members' personal life. And so again, as I mentioned on the webinar, if you didn't see live, empathy is not something that is a natural strong suit. So working with guys like Mark, when we do these assessments around emotional intelligence, around strengths, I mean, Mark, you've helped me figure out, okay, where do I need to go out of my comfort zone? And that's one of those areas, and start engaging with the team around what's happening, not just in your professional life, but what's happening outside of that. And what stressors do you have? What's going on with the family life? So I absolutely think this is a critical time to, again, if this is not your strong suit, align with experts that will help bring that out in you so you can become a better leader and really care for the team in this time.
Great. That's great. And Don, there's I guess we have a few more questions to go over.
Okay.
And people being productive, right? Mm-hmm. So here's the question. I would be curious to know if you feel you're more productive and efficient working from home versus working from an office 100% of the time.
Sure. It depends. It's a terrible answer, but it depends. So I'll explain it a little bit. For me personally, I am much more productive working remotely. Okay, that doesn't mean I should be doing it all the time or that I want to do it all the time, but I'm much more productive. I have seen that is not always the case, because especially right now, there are people working remotely that have never done it before. I've done it before. I know how to structure my routines. That is not something that is instantly learned and grasped and 100% executed well. So I think there are going to be some team members that are much more productive and some team members that are going to struggle at least for a period of time or for the length of however long your safer at home situation lasts for you. So really depends. And again, that's one reason to check in with your team, see how they're doing, see what they're struggling with, and see where you can help engage someone that is maybe struggling to work remotely and be 100% productive. So Mark, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing that there's going to be a mix. This new normal that's going to happen is going to be that people that would never have worked from home are going to work. You know, technology workers sometimes can work remotely. And I mean, we're not even talking offshoring. We're talking workers that are in the United States are actually working remotely, developers, etc. It's knowing your team well enough. So Don mentioned this. It's like knowing certain people would be distracted even in the same occupation if they actually worked offsite. Knowing that what the personality of your team is, knowing how they need to collaborate, making sure everything's in place. You can't just pluck people and say, you need to work here and you can be working off site unless you really have metrics to measure all that. So I think it's important to understand the depth and what your output's supposed to be and how your team's going to work, because working from home can be very lonely for a lot of people, even outside of a crisis. And people are already disengaged. That does not help. So you can't just blanket it. So you're right, Don. It does depend.
All right. And we got one more question we're going to knock out here. Mark, assuming you think you're communicating properly, are there telltale signs that your team needs more communication from you?
Well, you're asking a guy who loves to communicate, so I'm a little biased on this. And Don, you're the same way. I would rather over communicate and make sure, but the key is not speaking at people. The key is really making sure they heard what you said. And what I do in my coaching, and Don's experienced this, and a lot of my friends even get to experience this, is I repeat back and say, this is what I heard you say. And I know it sounds simple and it sounds kind of crazy, but just think, if you said, hey, we're going to go somewhere and we're going to meet at a certain time. And I said, okay, so you mean go here at this time? It's not funny because there's 12 Starbucks and you could go to the wrong one. So even just saying that, a real practical example, it's making sure you're communicating. So if a simple example can get overlooked, what happens when it's something critical for business that literally a deadline's missed because you misinterpreted it or because it was explained in a way where it was vague? So I think making sure you communicate in different ways, but validate that communication by making sure you close the loop, by making sure you have that conversation back and saying, is this what I heard? Is this what you said?
Absolutely. It's a great
answer.
So,
hey, teaser, right? Hey, we got something else coming up, don't we? I mean, we have another webinar because one's not enough.
Absolutely. So part 2 of this series is coming up in a couple weeks. So look for the link to sign up for that. We're going to talk about consensus and how to move forward without 100% agreement. That's tricky. So we're looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to sharing the mic and the video with Mark again. Appreciate everybody joining. If there's any questions we did not get to that come up after the fact, hit us up. We'd love to be able to answer those questions as well. All right.
Thank you.